that I'd said earlier, in that I'd like everybody that's watching and listening to imagine a workplace where every employee shows up every day with the mentality of how can I do my job better? That is such a powerful thing. And it speaks right into what Tamar said earlier about 15 to 20% productivity improvement, how powerful that can be. But to get there, I can't emphasize enough how leaders have to model that behavior. Leaders have to behave that way. They have to put those type of processes in place, because if they don't, it just will not happen and the continuous improvement will fall flat.
And just feeding off what you said, Jeff, in terms of leaders embodying that, I think there is a multiplier effect even outside the organization that can happen when we embody this culture of productivity improvement. It can trickle over into our homes, our lives, to our children, our communities. And I always encourage persons and organizations to extend that culture outside their organization to even their suppliers, for example, because once they are supplying them with quality products in a timely manner, we continue to empower and encourage and participate in this improvement process on a wider scale, so that all can be involved, our communities, our nation, and allow this world to just be a better place.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much that you spent time with Tamar and Jeff. Tamar, I know that you had a tough day, and well, I apologize for taking your time, but I'm going to stop recording and. Welcome to Dr. M Wadcast, a wadcast with a mission, connecting continuous improvement professionals across the world. Hi, this is Dr. M, your host. Very excited to be back with you all after a lapse of a month or so. I bring to you episode 5 of Dr. M's SMET show, and my guests are Tamar Nelson from Jamaica, West Indies, and Jeff Custer from Minnesota, USA. They will be exchanging their thoughts on the subject, how to implement a culture of continuous improvement. This episode is in 3 segments. The first segment is of 5 minutes, the second segment of 10 minutes, and the third segment a little over 10 minutes. So here we go to segment 1. Tamar Nelson, Jamaica, West Indies, and Jeff Custer from Minnesota, USA. Welcome to Dr. M's SMET show. Now, where did I get this SMET? Is for single minute digit exchange of thoughts. So that's all the time that you have. And what we are going to talk about is proposed by you is how to implement the culture of continuous improvement. And that goes well with the previous episodes. We were talking about continuous improvement pillar and respect for people, and this would add spice to the SMET. So the first segment is 5 minutes, and the attack time is 2.5, and then I stop recording, and then you have the segment 2 where you can flow. You can exchange thoughts, and after 10 minutes, I stop recording. And the final section is you can complete your discussion and give us a summary or a one-liner Both of you are extremely good at it. And you should have just given me a hint that you all are going to wear white. I would have also worn white. So, so
You
you're
didn't
on
get
a
the memo.
so you're on a timer, and let's see. Here we go for the timer. Uh, I hope you can see the timer, and when you are ready, the timer starts. I don't know. The Tamar was so gracious to say that, Jeff, you start first. No, that's between both of you.
Yeah.
I don't intervene in all this. So, Jeff, if you're ready, the time starts now. Should I press the start button?
All right, let's go.
Let's go. Here we go.
Oh, Dr. M, thanks for having me on the show today. I really appreciate getting back together with you. For all the viewers, introduce myself. I'm Jeff Custer. I'm the director of content for Level Up Courses, and also one of the people that's on the First Cup of Joe show, where we talk about all things leadership. And Dr. M, the business that I'm in, Level Up Courses, we work with individuals and organizations and businesses to help them develop excellent leaders. And our motto is ridding the world of toxic leaders. And I really think that we can, through education and working with people, we can help them eliminate toxic behaviors. It'll make the workplace better. And really, it ties into our topic tonight in that if you want to shape the culture in an organization, if you start with a high level of toxicity, struggle, I think, to implement what we're going to talk about in as far as continuous improvement. Leaders, we're going to, I'm sure, talk a lot about tonight. Leaders have to be very intentional when they're trying to shape the culture in their organization. And there can't be a bunch of mixed messages. And I think you're going to really struggle if you're trying to implement continuous improvement, which takes a high degree of employee engagement if you have that toxic workplace. And so I'm excited to talk about the topic tonight. And, for me, thinking about, what is continuous improvement? I know the two of you are continuous improvement experts. I'm a leadership guy, and you're industrial engineer people that really know continuous improvement. But, for me, continuous improvement means that we're making thousands of small improvements over time. We're improving processes, we're improving systems in little steps every day, all the time. And I'll finish with this in my intro. Imagine a workplace where every employee shows up every day with the mentality, how can I do my job better?
Excellent. So he did take a couple of seconds from you, Tamar. Go ahead.
So, good day, everyone. I am Tamar Nelson. I am from Jamaica, as currently introduced, and I've spent the last 23 or more years in the area of improvement and all things productivity. So it's really a pleasure to be here to speak with my friends from India and Minnesota, no strangers to me, to speak about this topic that is so very relevant today, especially with all that's in terms of high costs, logistical issues with, different threats affecting the resilience of organizations and teams. And so this culture of continuous improvement is nothing new, but I think it's even more relevant now. Jeff would have mentioned the whole matter of toxicity, and it has no place in a culture of continuous improvement. When you create that culture where that philosophy, the practice, the behaviors is constantly seeking ways to improve your products, your services, your processes, it becomes a way of life. So we need to develop systems and frameworks and to show persons how it works, not just telling them, but also living it as leaders so that they can see the benefit of such a culture where it's a win-win fun. It's making their lives better, and it also may even mean monetary impact for them, which again, I don't think persons would refuse in these times. So, I have seen this applied in countries locally here in Jamaica and abroad, and it's never a loss. Everyone wins. And I think we were talking just now before coming in on what it looks like. And I guess we'll speak some more to that as we continue.
Few of the key words or phrases which I heard the guests speak about are: one, toxicity has no place in the culture of continuous improvement. Second, continuous improvement requires high level of employee engagement. If one has toxic workplace culture, one will have to struggle for employee engagement. Coming to leadership, they spoke about: one, the leader should develop a system, a framework of continuous improvement. They should show their employees how it works, and by living it, the leaders will demonstrate the benefits of this culture. Then everybody will try to imbibe that in their life, so everybody wins. And finally, leaders must be contextual and no mixed messages. And I like this, what Jeff said: imagine a workplace where every employee turns up every day with the mentality of how can I do my job better. What did you catch on from the conversation in segment 1? Please record it in the comment section in my YouTube and my LinkedIn page. Thank you. We move over to segment 2. Jeff and Tamar, that is an absolutely excellent with respect to Tamar. And sorry that I made you conscious about the time, but then we got the essence of it, and you all did it extremely well. I'm so glad about it. And there has to be a switch of the speakers. I mean, that prerogative is mine. The 10 minutes that you have is that you all exchange your thoughts, share your time. You got 10 minutes for the segment, and I've not started the timer. So, Tamar, we'll start with you this time.
Right. Thank you, Dr. M. And
When you're ready for your timer to start.
Yes, I am ready. Thank you.
Here we go. Tamar, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. M. So this whole idea of continuous improvement is not something that's ad hoc. It isn't something that you just start and forget up in a few time. It's a way of doing things. Yeah. So it's not something that only a select few is introduced to. It's best when everyone is involved, when everyone has a voice and can contribute. And what that helps with is the engagement, in which Jeff would have spoken of earlier. It also helps with the sustainability of any improvement initiative, and it continues that momentum of continuous improvement. And the only way to do it is to do it with love and joy, right? Not toxicity. Yeah. And you find that cultures that have that continuous improvement initiatives in place and a system in place for that usually have the highest engagement of employees, and they look forward to going to work. They have, and you can look at the statistics and studies to prove this. They have longer engagement with the company. They have, they retain their employees longer, lower turnover. In fact, some companies record increases in productivity of 15 to 20%. Now, I know most companies today would want 15 to 20% added to their profits, right? And it's critical to the success of organizations today. It's almost a must do. And some persons get a bit shy as to start it because of what is entailed. But once you start and you realize that it's not rocket science, it's not something that's too hard, that's too difficult, you can build on it and actually put in systems in place to assist you. So it all starts with a vision, right? And then you need to empower your employees to identify and solve the problems. They, all that they need to implement those initiatives. Continue to train them and give them resources. Can't give them a basket to carry water, as we say in Jamaica. You need to give them the resources to do so. And of course, nothing happens without measurement. That's how we're going to track. That's how we provide the evidence. That's what tells you where the savings are. And that is what keeps the momentum going. And of course, celebrating those successes. That's the fun part, where everybody is winning, and that joy just keeps that momentum going. And some persons may ask, well, when do I start? The best time to start is right now. Start today, start tomorrow. I mean, just do it. And it may be a small project, but just keep going. So it's a never-ending process, but it is one that's, I think, important, not only for business, but also in life, that we keep learning, growing, and continuously improving once we are alive, wherever we are. I think that's the best contributions we can have. So how to get it done sustainable? Involve everyone. Have that system of tracking and improvement, and just learn from our failures. Not that you won't have them, but we build on them so that we can continue to grow and improve. When we find them, we see how we can eliminate or minimize as best as possible so that we can continue to improve. So Jeff, your thoughts on...
a couple.
Sorry, you gave me some minutes. You gave me 19 seconds to.
19.
I was going to use that up.
I couldn't resist but to button. What I like what Tamar says is that there is no start line or there is no finish line as far as continuous improvement is concerned. So there is a finish line here. Over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, a couple of reactions, Tamar, that you just kind of struck when you said. I think, to me, a little bit, you talk about continuous improvement and engagement, and to me, it almost is like a chicken and egg thing, like which one comes first. It's hard to tell. They kind of go hand in hand. And so I thought that was really, really insightful what you said. The other thing that I think you wove in there that I've seen leaders make mistakes in continuous improvement is, you said, let's start now. And sometimes I've seen executives say, okay, today's Friday, on Monday, we're going to do continuous improvement. And their culture has not been a culture of continuous improvement, but they've listened to us talk and they decide that's the way to go. And the support structure that you talked about, how the continuous part of continuous improvement, I think gets overlooked, and they just, executives get to be impatient. They want results now. And one of the things I see, if you don't have a culture of continuous improvement, and that's the direction you want to go, yeah, let's start now, but realize it may take a long time to really get there.
Yes.
And I think you mentioned, Tamar, you mentioned a couple things that I think I'd probably re-emphasize what you already said. I think leadership in organizations has to understand their core values and beliefs very well. They need to know what makes the organization tick, what makes them tick. They need to understand their leadership style. If it, we without getting too far off in the weeds, if that top leadership in the organization is very autocratic, you're going to have a hard time doing continuous improvement in a command and control structure. And then we talked about the employee engagement relationship building. So you have to have those components in place to start. And so that takes some work from leaders. And then I think a little bit about the characteristics of an innovative culture, because I've been in that situation before where leaders have said, okay, Monday we're going to start being innovative. And yet the culture that we're currently in doesn't allow for a lot of creativity and experimentation. Continuous improvement requires that you said it, Tamar, it requires that you allow employees to make a mistake and take risks, but there are cultures, results oriented type cultures tend to not allow those things. They don't reward those things. And so if that's the culture you're in and you're trying to transition, you got a lot of work to do, and it might be difficult to where I've seen those type of organizations where people wait until they're told to do something. That's maybe the opposite, Dr. M, of a continuous improvement. You have people say, I'm not going to take a risk. I don't want to be creative because those are things are not rewarded here. So I'm going to wait till somebody tells me what to do. That's the opposite, Tamar, of what we want people to do. You're saying on that assembly line, if you have that assembly line working, it says, boy, I have to reach a weird way to grab this part every time. What would happen if we just move this bin 1 foot over and I don't have to reach so far? That's continuous improvement in my mind. And if you don't have the right culture in place to support that, that employee will never do that because they're afraid if I do it and it doesn't work, I'll get my hands slapped. So I'm not going to do that. So, and I think the last thing, Dr. M, that I'd emphasize about characteristics on innovative culture, probably like all cultures, but maybe this more so, it really requires a high degree of open two-way communication. People have to trust that the leaders have their back if they take risks, and they have to trust that their leadership, if the risk fails, that it's okay, maybe within some kind of boundaries. But there's those characteristics that are really, I think, unique to that innovative type culture that other cultures don't have. So leaders need to be aware of that as they say, okay, Tamar, let's start now. I love that. Let's start now. But you have to have these components in place, or I think you're going to really struggle. So that's my 2 cents worth, Dr. M.
Oh, that's extremely good. I mean, one thing that I picked up, although you didn't give me any time to add, but then one thing is that you told me is that there has to be atmosphere created by the management, and
yeah,
walk the talk, as Tamar said, transparency, and that you are permitted to experiment and fail, and that's where the trust comes in, I presume. So the SMET also applies to me. So thank you very much, and we go to the third section. The key words and phrases that I picked up from the exchange of thoughts between the speakers of this segment 2 are that continuous improvement initiative are not ad hoc in nature. They also went on to say that it's a way of doing things where everyone is involved and you do it with love and joy. It requires highly engaged employees. They said that continuous improvement and engagement goes hand in hand. It's a way of life, learning, growing, and continuously improving throughout one's life. Further, they added that continuous improvement requires innovative culture, a culture which is built on openness, transparency, and built on trust. Leaders, they said, should be aware and understand the values and recognize their leadership style. We move on to segment 3, and if I have missed out on certain salient points in segment 2, please jot it down in the comment section in my YouTube and in my LinkedIn page. Over to segment 3. Can I start the time now?
Certainly.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, Dr. M, we have just a short time to talk about such a broad topic. It's hard just in a few minutes, I think, to really dig through what nuances it really would take to drive culture change, because I think that's what we're really talking about. Every organization out there, whether they have identified what their culture is or not, they have a culture. And if it's not a culture of continuous improvement, and that's where the direction they want to go, like I'd said in the earlier segment, there's some components they have to have in place before they even start to think about making that transition. They have to understand why they're doing that before they go telling a bunch of people to do it. Because the leaders really are the ones that are going to drive the culture of that organization. And if they want it to change, it needs to come from those top leaders. And I think one thing that I suspect both of you have seen with the work you've done in your careers is you go into a factory lunchroom and you see a really cool poster on the wall telling you about, hey, we have this culture of continuous improvement or some other thing. But when you walk around and you talk to people, you talk to executives, what it says on the poster doesn't match what you see or hear. And I see that so many times in organizations that they'll put the fancy poster on the wall, what they want to be, but their walk and talk doesn't match. And so I think that's why I get so focused on leaders making sure that they have that foundation in place before they charge into trying to implement this. They need to really know, Tamar, you talked about measuring and how do we roll this out? How do we, I talk a little bit about, somebody on that assembly line, you say, okay, you can move that bin of parts, but there might be some guide rails to that where you say, well, you can do this, but there are limits. You can't completely reorganize the factory tomorrow. You can do small things. And so I think that, everybody needs to understand what are the boundaries? What can I do without asking permission and taking risk? And what are those decisions that if I made that, I need to check in with someone? So there's a lot of those components that leaders need to understand really well as they seek to implement a culture of continuous improvement, because employees are going to see what you do and say, and they're going to compare that to that poster on the wall that you put up. And if it doesn't match, I think you're just dead in the water right from the start. And so leaders really need to be intentional about the type of culture they want. If they truly want this culture of continuous improvement, they need to be intentional about that. They need to model those behaviors themselves. If an employee makes a decision and takes a risk, and their reaction is to come in and cut the feet out from under that employee because they made a mistake, that's going to tell that employee to never take a risk again. And that's the opposite of what we're talking about doing here. So we really want leaders to model those behaviors. And when mistakes happen, how do they react to bad news? How do they react to mistakes? Because that's what it's going to take for them to engage their employees in that culture of continuous improvement. So I'm going to give you back 55 seconds, Dr. M.
Oh, that's thanks a lot, because what you spoke earlier and now just makes me resonate that toxicity, if I equate it with respect for people, if you don't have respect for people, you can just forget the other pillar of continuous improvement. That's
Yeah.
a take that I have from what both of you have been saying so far. And
Yeah.
I will give extra 24 seconds to Tamar. And go ahead, Tamar.
Thank you, Dr. M and Jeff. Really loving the discussion. It's so timely and so relevant to so many today. So thank you for bringing this topic out, Dr. M. You know, when I talk to persons via my podcast, COO's Corner, or, you know, on my everyday work, one of the things that comes up is some of the common drivers or gaps that exist in terms of their culture and their people. And one thing is those unaddressed generational differences, for example, because right now is the first time in history that we have so many generations in the workplace. Of course, that can cause a lot of conflict and toxicity. And, you know, Jeff would know this. There is also a lot of mismatch of skills and labor in terms of work happening. There is also the whole matter of well-being and wellness, especially since the pandemic has ended. That has become something that has a big issue in terms of burnout and work-life balance. Some people don't like that term, integration, work-life integration. And then on the operations side, there is a relative low level of R&D and innovative activities happening. Now, a culture of continuous improvement can assist with all of this. How? We find that when persons gather around a problem, bringing their strengths, they forget about generational gaps. They forget about, you know, they are more engaged, so they forget about issues. They leave toxicity behind because everybody is now owning, gathered around a particular problem to solve that problem. And so it builds camaraderie, it builds engagement, it offers training to those who needs to be pulled up by others. So they are watching, they're learning. Certain values in the organizations can be reinforced in these groups. Some companies allow them to be formed naturally, and some will make assignments, whichever way. It helps persons to forget about other issues and to focus on the problem. And that helps when everybody is involved in that kind of process in making that step towards a continuous improvement culture. Now, as we mentioned earlier, it's not a destination, it's a journey, right? It takes time, it takes effort to build that. So some organizations, it would take roughly 5 years to even start to notice that this is happening. And those early years are very hard. It's difficult. And you lose some people because they can't wrap their minds around continuous improvement, or they don't fit into the culture that they're trying to build. And so you lose some persons along the way, but the ones who remain, they get it and are willing and dedicated to working along in that system. And what we'll find is that in the long run, it works out. And when we said to start, you may find that you might start with one team today. Then you roll it out to the entire organization. And then when you roll it out, you may find an innovation. Probably you can use an application or AI tool to assist with improvement projects. One company I visited earlier, they actually use an application where you can upload your improvement initiatives and get points and gather points. And at the end of the year, there's some incentive that's given to you. And then you can look in that application and see other improvement initiatives that are happening company-wide and learn from that. So it's not that you have to come up with something new, but you can copy what somebody else has done. And that's another thing that we can do, is to look at other industries to see how can this be applied to what I'm doing, and how can I improve my situation with that. So it doesn't have to be something new and out of the box, but it might just be new for the system. So we can copy and paste wherever possible, but the idea is to be better today than we were yesterday, and that we look with hope to the future, that tomorrow will be better than today. And having that kind of hope and that willingness to continue to improve will go a far way to continue to encourage others to participate in this process.
Excellent. You did it on time. I don't find a better way of ending segment 3 and this episode without paraphrasing what Tamar Nelson told us. This is what she said. I'm paraphrasing it. The idea to be better today will look to the future that is better tomorrow than today. Having that type of hope and willingness to continue to improve will go far way to encourage people participate in this continuous improvement process. Thank you very much, Tamar Nelson and Jeff Custer, for this wonderful exchange of thoughts. And viewers, please do comment on this episode in the comment column, my LinkedIn page, and also YouTube. Thank you very much. See you soon.